Chester, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very well, thank you for having me on.
Your big thing, your business model, something you're very passionate about is sleep. Because if someone gets the right amount of sleep, as you said, they can wake earlier, they can perform better, and it's all to do with their sleep. So a question I have for you is, what made you get interested in sleep? Did you like sleeping?
Everyone loves sleeping. But no, that's a really good question. And it all stems from the fact that I used to sleep poorly, and I slept poorly for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. So I have something called sleep apnea, which is essentially when during my sleep, my airways close off, which means I stop breathing. Because I stop breathing, I never get into restful deep sleep. And essentially, because I kept waking up, I was just staying in light sleep, and I'd wake up with headaches. I'd feel tired, exhausted all the time. Everything used to be a massive struggle for me. Like, I really felt like I was lazy, and that people felt that I was lazy as well. I'd always be scrambling around in the morning with brain fog, unable to remember like what I needed and what I was supposed to do. I'd go to work, and I was always 10, 15 minutes late. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was my sleep, because I was sleeping 8 hours, but I was getting more like 4 because of this sleep apnea, which is essentially breath holding. And as soon as I got it fixed with something called a CPAP machine, which keeps my airways open, my life completely changed. Everything changed for me. Way more organized, way more on time, way more coherent, had way more mental clarity and focus. And honestly, the year from when I actually got my sleep fixed after having sleep apnea for that long, it was, yeah, a completely different person.
So are you saying that the condition that you have was affecting everything that you do in your life? Now, sleep apnea is different from snoring, or is it the same thing?
It's different. So snoring is a common thing associated with sleep apnea, because imagine right now your airways are nice and open. When you fall asleep, if your airways collapse, or if they come very narrow, and essentially you're going to be getting vibrations at the back of your throat. And that airway occlusion, or those airways closing off, is what actually sleep apnea is. But as a result of your airways closing off, you're also producing those vibrations, and then you're having the sound of snoring. So it is associated with it, and it's a sign to look out for if you think that you may have sleep apnea. But you can have snoring and still be getting airflow into your body, and your oxygen levels are normal. If you've got sleep apnea, it means that you're breath holding, it means your oxygen levels are dropping, and it means that periodically throughout the night you're gasping for air, waking yourself up. And that can happen to a mild, moderate, or a severe degree.
Yeah, I snore.
Mm.
And, I think in the past I would snore where I would wake myself up by a loud snore, or I would snore when I'm awake. So, the mind is dropping off, but, still awake. And then the muscles relax and there's a snore. And I say my wife has a great snoring machine. It's her elbow, so and it sometimes can be very annoying for her, not me. And I bought one of these apps, a snore app, and it basically records you through the night. And it scores you out of 1 to 100. And I was in the 10 range, and it was only just the odd time. So your snores. And I think if I've gone out for a few beers, it was in the 60 to 70. I don't know why you're more relaxed, than normally. But Chester, with yourself, you had this condition, and you said that you bought what was it you purchased to
Yeah, it's called a CPAP machine, and
a
I got
sleep
that
app?
from the NHS.
Yeah. And is that the thing, like it's something that you wear with a big hose? It's like you're, a fighter jet pilot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
And
Stands out.
do you still wear that today?
I do. I wear it every single night without fail, and I have done since I got it in 2023.
Okay. Okay. So what are you doing to help people? I'm sure there's people that are not sleeping at night, but
Mm.
they don't need to have any, to be attached to anything. And their sleep, not having enough sleep is affecting their day. Like, I know with brain fog, that can do with food. Eating the wrong food can cause brain fog, or, if for myself, if I do fasting, I, maybe do 16 hours fasting or 24 hours fasting, and that sort of clears the brain fog, and it also helps my digestive system and sleep better as well. And then there's the exercise and food. But for yourself, you had it, you're wearing it all night, and then you went, you know what? I'm going to help other people. So, what are you trying to achieve by helping other people, and what are you doing to help them as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So most of the people that I work with don't necessarily have sleep apnea. They just have sleep issues in general. And typically, I find it in the people that are very ambitious and really wanting to achieve, because these types of people are always trying to work harder and push through. Their caffeine intake's high, their mind's always racing, they're tired but wired. So they get into bed, they just simply can't fall asleep. Or they do fall asleep and they feel like they're not getting enough deep sleep and it's more of the light sleep. And they might be waking up, their mind racing, or just simply finding that they just don't ever feel refreshed and they're always groggy and they're always tired. So those are symptoms of poor sleep patterns. So my whole aim is to identify what the sleep pattern is, why it's negative, and then how I can go and fix it. Because with sleep, everyone is very different. Our bodies are different, so we all need different amounts of sleep, and how we sleep will be different. But also, the thing that's actually impacting your sleep negatively will be different as well, person to person. So the advice I give one person is not ever going to be the same for the next. So the generic tips you see online, like, stop eating 2 hours before bed and read a book before bed, and like these things, okay, they can work for some people, but you have to understand why you're doing it and reverse engineer, because if you're doing something just for the sake of doing it, then it may actually not necessarily help you, right? It's just adding more in for the sake of doing it. Whereas, okay, it might not benefit your specific situation. So, because of my own sleep issues and because I work as a sleep scientist in the NHS and I have a background as an online fitness coach as well, I'm basically very well equipped to understand the sleep issues that people are going through, but then also apply my knowledge in a way to help people with this through coaching, because knowledge is one thing, coaching is another. I think coaching is a skill in itself that needs to be learned. So because I have experience in coaching and I have the knowledge in sleep, and I also know how it affects myself because I've dealt with these issues, I have three areas there which make me feel like I'm obliged to help people, and it is my passion because I know that if I help people sleep better, increase deep sleep, increase the amount of hours, reduce the mind racing, ultimately these people are going to perform better, you know, increase their output, their productivity, be more focused, and ultimately unlock more out of their everyday life, right?
So you mentioned there it's bespoke for everyone, and I agree with you about people sleep different. Like night owl to someone who's a morning person. I'm very much a night owl, and I can function on 7 hours sleep. I get up at 6 a.m. in the morning, and that took me probably about a year to get up at that time because I like getting up late. I go to bed at 12 and after midnight, but I bungle around like a buffoon at 6 a.m. in the morning. I read sometimes. I laugh. Someone it was posted on LinkedIn. I'm up at 4. I go to the gym and then I do this. I don't know if you've seen them, and I do this face treatment, and then I, have a cold dunk in water, and I'm bungling around in my kitchen with a coffee in the dressing gown, trying to trying to get my head together.
See it.
So and like, can some people who are having bad night's sleep be suffering from, or I don't know if it's suffering anymore, but AD?
Yeah, so ADHD can definitely make sleep harder. So typically people with ADHD will have more of an active mind, so more of a racing mind, and find it harder to switch off, which can obviously make sleep harder because you need to be in a relaxed state. Now, also, people with ADHD also tend to, neurodivergent people in general tend to have a delayed sleep phase, which means they typically want to go to bed later and wake up later, which of course in societal norms, it's harder to do so because typically most people go to work at 9 till 5. So, and also if the school's right. So when you have a naturally later sleep phase or circadian rhythm, aka your body clock, when your body likes to fall asleep and wake up, that can be harder because naturally if you have to wake up at a certain time anyway, but your body wants to go to bed later, then you're going to be getting less sleep.
You talk about the body clock there. what sort of findings are you developing or noticing, I should say, in the sleep science arena?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things is that your sleep consistency is actually one of the most important things, even more so than your sleep duration. So that basically means if I can be waking up at the same time every single morning, then arguably that's better than me trying to get up later just to get a certain amount of hours of sleep in. Now, the reason behind that tends to be because if we can wake up at a certain time every single morning, then your body's going to be helping to release hormones so that you're alert in the day, but also able to fall asleep and you're getting sleepy in the evening. Now, your body thrives off routine. So if you're constantly waking up at different times, like 9 a.m. and then 7 a.m. and then 6 a.m., then you're essentially giving your body mixed signals about what time of day it is. So now your body is going to be getting confused and it's not going to know when it's supposed to be releasing hormones to make you feel awake and alert or sleepy, right? So consistency is the most important thing when it comes to your sleep.
What about anxiety?
Anxiety around sleep.
Say someone, they go to sleep because they're dealing with something with a bully boss or, something going on in the workplace, and they're going to sleep anxious because they're settling. And in that moment of settling, they're having thoughts about the horrible day they have to have the next day. And then during the night, their mind is acting out the anxiety. And then in the morning, they don't want to get out of bed because of the anxiety, because it's could it be a safe place for them at that moment? Have you ever come across that?
Yeah, certainly. So your racing mind, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling stressed, the repeating memories. Sometimes it can be something very specific, right, to work. So it might have been a mistake you made that you're stressing about. It might be an upcoming task or a deadline that you've got to meet or a big piece of work. Sometimes it can be something completely random, like what you're gonna have for dinner the next day, right? But it all stems from being in a heightened stress state because your body or your brain needs to be relaxed in a state of rest and digest in order to actually fall asleep and drift off. When you've got a lot going on, your mind's very active and you haven't actually allowed yourself to deal or process those thoughts, they are bound to stop you from going to sleep or they are bound to come up. The 3 a.m. wake up, right? Very common in a lot of people. That's because there are thoughts that are still racing around in your mind that haven't been processed properly. Or I like to use the analogy, you haven't closed the book on the day. So in order for us to actually fall asleep, we need to have some sort of separation. We need to draw a line. We need to close that book. If the book's still open, you're going to be back to reading the pages at midnight. So you always want to close that book.
Yeah, or I'm a believer before you go to bed, think of something positive because when you go to sleep, the book is closed, but the minute you wake up in the morning, it'll open up on the exact same page you were the night. So if you're
Just
feeling
like that.
good, I had a terrible issue for years that I couldn't sleep. And what I had to do was I had to switch my mind off. So I would have to sleep listening to a podcast or listening to something of education, which that's all I listen to all the time. So listen to it. So stop my mind racing and then I would fall asleep. And then I'd wake up during the night tangled in the headphone cord, but
Basically, got
drifting
sleep
off.
apnea.
Yeah, choke apnea.
Yeah.
And I I then kind of went, I have to stop this because I don't like the phone in the room because of the light and everything, because
Mm.
it can affect us. So I made a decision to not phone not in the room. And I actually then just trained myself into bed and out like a light. And I sleep now from the minute I hit the pillow, I'm out and I don't wake up till 6 a.m. I don't set an alarm clock or anything, but 6 a.m. I wake up on it. But I still wake up tired. And sometimes I'll get up at 6 and I'll go down, I'll let the dogs out, have a cup of coffee and I go, or not, might have might have a glass of water and I'll go back to bed, say, look, I'm tired. And I'll go back to bed for 10 minutes and I'll sleep for maybe 40 minutes. And then I'm exhausted for a couple of hours. So why, if we give ourselves that little extra sleep and then we're exhausted, why is that? What causes that?
Yeah. So I said about that consistency being the most important thing. So that's applying in this case, right? So when we wake up, your body's already shifting over to being in a state of alertness or wakefulness. So it's going to be releasing hormones for you to be more awake, such as cortisol. Now, when you then go back to sleep, you're then increasing your melatonin production again because you're falling asleep. So when you wake up, you're now in a state of being really groggy because your melatonin hasn't had time to suppress because you've gone back to sleep. So you've just boosted it back up. So now your hormones are getting all mixed up and your body's like, oh, should I be awake? Should I be asleep? And then it's increasing your sleepiness hormones. So you're waking up and you feel like you haven't slept, all because your hormones are in a bit of a jumble there.
You're building confidence. You're helping people. Like in sales, when I talk about sales, I build confidence and I help companies build structure. And that structure then shows up in everything they do and the company just grows and profits. You're doing the same, but it's for an individual for their personal life. So when you implement a regime to someone, and I'm sure depending on the person because of your fitness background and it's, you're talking food, you're talking exercise, discipline, all these elements. What changes have you seen in people that follow your program?
Yeah, so typically the short-term benefits that I hear most about is just the increased energy and less of a groggy feeling in the morning. So that's usually the first stage. We're actually just stabilizing sleep and taking it from a position where it's bad to where it's average because there are a lot of benefits to doing that. It's not always about optimizing sleep. It's just about how can we take away the things that are negatively impacting it. Because if you do that, you're going to stop feeling groggy. You're going to stop getting brain fog. You're going to stop feeling like you need caffeine at midday and you get the afternoon energy crash. You feel like you have to push through. Those things dissipate very quickly once you just take sleep from a position of poor to okay. Then following on from that, it's just the feeling of being at 100%, feeling like you're actually fulfilling your potential because a lot of people, when they first come to me, they're like, I feel like I'm performing at 60%. I don't feel like I'm my best. I feel like I'm at a shadow of myself. I feel like I'm not as sharp as I could be. Now, these are with conversations I've had with people. So the whole system is designed to take people through the position of they can feel not as bad as they did, and then they can feel even better. And a lot of people that I work with, they come to me because they've had poor sleep for a long period of time, right? And they've had this baseline, but then they are, pardon the pun, but tired of being tired, right? They are tired of the memory issues, the brain fog, the reading the same sentence 5 times and it not fully processing in their head, the energy crashes, they're having to just push through the day. And some people are having like 3, 4, 5 coffees just to get through the day. And that's because they are replacing the energy it's at you, replacing the energy that they should be getting naturally with artificial energy. So yeah, that's essentially the full system, and it's all about stabilizing the sleep and going from there.
What is it like when back in 2025, I made a decision I was going to go to the gym 3 times a week and I was going to make sure I get in 10,000 steps every day and etc. And for me to do that, I had to set a goal. I had to focus on it. I had to break a habit and I had to be very disciplined in what I needed to do. And in the beginning, it was hell. And then an old habit disappeared and a new habit was formed. But I was reading up on it there last week that when people change habits, if they are overstressed or something happens that causes major anxiety, they fall back into that old habit. So are you breaking someone's habit?
So my whole aim at the start of coaching is to make it as low friction as I possibly can. So what are the 1, 2, maybe 3 things that I can get people doing so they can see positive change without overhauling their whole life? Because I know that with the kinds of people that I'm working with, they're super busy, right? Some of them are managing teams, other people are just building their own businesses, but they are scaling that business and they've got a lot to do, marketing, sales, all the rest of it, right? So if I add something and expect them to do, 10 things to do with in total with training, nutrition, and sleep, and healthy lifestyle and routines, it's not going to work. One, they're not going to be able to stick to it. But two, it's going to present a negative experience and drive them away from doing said thing. So I always focus on the lowest friction things to start with, and I do calls with my clients because I want to have that level of one-to-one service. So I'm like, okay, this is what's working. This is what's not working. This is how we can adapt it. So the whole way through, I'm constantly like, okay, this is what we can do. This is how we can make it better. This is what we can take away. Because if you constantly do that process and you constantly are aware of what's happening in the person's life, you can always change your approach or change the plan. So it never becomes too overwhelming and you can always make steps forwards or at least stay the same around everything else that's going on in someone's life.
In the UK, how many people suffer from sleep?
Millions, millions. I believe stats and figures say that it's around 30% of people that sleep less than 7 hours, so 5, 6 hours a night. Now, that figure could be more highly elevated, and that's just sleeping that duration. There are going to be people that are sleeping 7 hours, still sleep poorly, they still wake up tired, they still feel like they've got low energy. So ultimately, we're in a society where sleep isn't necessarily prioritized. One, due to a work harder hustle culture, but two, because of how most people's work lives are set up and family lives are set up. You know, if you've got kids, especially young kids, you've got other responsibilities and commitments that will ultimately mean that sleep is impacted. So I would say a huge chunk of the population has impacted sleep.
Yeah, what you said there is quite interesting that, it's a hustle culture and people don't take sleep. I can remember in my 20s, I had a motto, I do all the sleeping when I'm dead.
Mm,
And, in your 20s, you don't need much sleep,
get through.
you get through the day. Which is the most interesting case that you've worked on or to help someone?
It's a good question. Most interesting or most fulfilling or most rewarding?
Most fulfilling?
It's hard to say. Not all of them. I've been recently working with a business owner that was juggling between two things, and he'd come to me because he was in a position where a lot of people in this company had to get laid off because of how the business was going. And he'd always had the mentality of just push through and work more. But he felt like he was putting in 150 units of effort just to get 50 units back. And working with him, he's been very, very engaged with me, sending me loads of data, keeping me informed about how he's feeling and how he's getting on with the plan. And we're having these weekly calls, and we're just seeing huge breakthroughs in his mindset around sleep, which is huge because your perceptions and your beliefs and how you feel about sleep will shape how well you do sleep. And it will shape the actions that you take around it, right? So if you've always got a hustle mentality of I'm just going to do 5 hours and push through so I can work more, your sleep's always going to be poor. You're always going to feel awful. And eventually you are going to be at increased risk of dementia. But back to the topic of working with this client. Now, we've been able to shift his mindset over time because it's been ingrained in him in a long period of time to like, oh, I'm just going to delay my sleep or oh, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do a bit more work. And just seeing the real time shifts in his mentality around it is huge. And then not only that, but then the rewards that we're seeing from that, the increased energy, the increased productivity. He's getting up at like 6 a.m., getting to the gym, getting back, and he's working from, 7:30. Now that was unheard of before. Before he'd be rolling out of bed, feeling tired and groggy, having to do, tasks that were supposed to be taking an hour would take 2 hours and he'd have to nap in between. Just to see all these things improve from the onset to now, and bear in mind it's only been 3, 4 weeks, is yeah, it's just so rewarding to take people through that process.
We talk about seasons can have effect on life, and I've often heard people say they feel different because of the pull of the moon. Because as you know, we're more there's watered than anything else. Our body is was it 80% or something of water. Have you noticed that people through changing through seasons have different sleep patterns, or is it just the same right through?
Yeah, so I would say during the winter months, when it's dark in the mornings, people's wake times will typically get pushed back or they just don't feel like getting up, right? It's cold, it's dark. You don't want to get up. And light is the thing that actually, so your eyes have sensors in them. Even when they're closed, they've got receptors in them so they can pick up light, process light, and tell your brain what time of day it is. So when it's darker and it's like darker mornings, and it's taking longer for that sunlight to actually reach your eyes, then people are going to be more likely to just stay in bed and feel lazy and feel like got low energy. So that's a big thing. And the lack of light can also cause low mood and such things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I hate January. It's a cold month and all. But I think it's if what I'm picking up from it, it's the discipline, it's changing, it's making people make better decisions as well. What happens if someone does, there's people I know people out there that are doing everything that you're saying. They're eating well, they're exercising, they're getting up early, they're going to bed early, they're doing everything, but they still feel tired during the day. No matter what they do, they still feel tired. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, so what I'd say is there is something that's going on, right? And, part of improving sleep is the behaviors and the habits around sleep. Part of it's the cognition or the thoughts and feelings around sleep. And the other part is the physiological side, right? So, like, what is your sleep architecture actually like? Okay. So, how much deep sleep are you getting? How much REM sleep are you getting? How much light sleep are you getting? What's your sleep efficiency like? So, how much sleep are you actually getting in comparison to the time you're spending in bed? How much sleep are you getting all in one row? Is it broken? So, and how much light are you getting? So, yeah, it goes a little bit deeper than just the behaviors around it. It goes into the physiological state that your body's in during sleep. Because, yeah, like you can do all these things. You can get 7, 8 hours. You can still wake up feeling tired and you feel like you're doing every single thing right. And a lot of people do feel like they're doing every single thing right. It's typically looking at sleep on a deeper, more physiological level to understand, okay, you do still feel tired, but this is the reason why. Just because you felt tired for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years even, doesn't mean that that has to be the reality for the rest of your life. Usually there is something that can be done. It's just about looking at your sleep more holistically, the bigger picture, and
Yeah.
seeing, okay, like what avenue is best to explore here.
Yeah, our youngest didn't sleep for the first 2 years, literally
Mm.
didn't sleep, and we were exhausted. It's amazing thinking back then and knowing what I know now, how tired I was, or you were basically living on fatigue because if she wasn't sleeping, we weren't sleeping and exhausted. And I think going through that experience, I now appreciate sleep. I was deprived of it. We were deprived of it for 2 years. That now, years later, I love getting into bed and trying to read now instead of having the phone on it. Have we left anything out that you want to open?
And there's so many things that I could speak about with sleep. But I feel like
Okay,
at
let
the
me ask you
moment,
this. What's overlooked?
I think sleep is in general is overlooked, really. I think that again, that the mindset you had, I'll sleep when I'm dead and I just need to work more and I'll stay up later to get this task done, this project done, and I'll, get up earlier. I don't really care if I get 5 hours, can I just push through with caffeine? It is a very harmful mindset and sleeping consistently under 6 hours has been shown to increase your risk of dementia or Alzheimer's by 30%. It's also been shown to make you more metabolically impaired. So your increased risk of diabetes, your increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. Your brain literally can't function properly because during deep sleep, your brain is essentially like a washing machine and it rinses waste products from it. So if you don't sleep enough and these waste products accumulate, you're going to run into some serious issues, right? Your body composition is going to be worse. You're going to find it harder time shifting fat off and your testosterone levels. So your energy, your drive, your ambition, it's all going to melt and crumble away. And you might not even notice it right now, but over periods of time, that will accumulate and catch up on you, right? So whether you're young or you're middle-aged or you're old, like it always needs to be a priority. And I believe that it's not taken as seriously as it should be, or there's not enough education and expertise around it, which is exactly the gap that I'm trying to bridge. So what I'd say is treat it the same way you treat your business, treat it the same way you treat your nutrition, your exercise if you're into the gym, that sort of thing. Because arguably it's actually the most important thing out of everything. If you don't exercise, it's not good for you, right? But it's not going to increase your risk of mortality, aka death, as much as not sleeping would. And I'm not here to like say you're gonna die, but I'm here to say that the risks are there. And it's not just the performance marker, it's also the actual health marker. So look at sleep as a health and performance lever that you can pull on to be a better version of yourself, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, I'm sort of calculating. I have the
Go
Fitbit
Whoop.
and
I got
No,
you.
and then there's the whoop as well, which is meant to be great. I had to be talked into this, so I'm not ready for the next level. And it's sort of about 7 and a bit hours having, but then on the weekends, I kind of have the attitude, right, I'll do 7 Monday to Friday. And then on a Sunday, I'll have a lie in and I'll
Mm.
get up at 9 a.m. or half 8. I wake up at 6 or whatever. That day I'll will come downstairs for 10, 15 minutes and then go back into bed. And I kind of feel, okay, the that extra bit of time I missed during the week, I'll catch up with it on the weekend, which is wrong. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't work like that, but I
No,
see the
yeah,
rationale.
yeah. It's like doing some chores. I'll finish the rest on the weekend. But on it, what did you get wrong to get right?
Think trying too hard to make your sleep as good as it possibly can be, especially if you're already sleeping decently well. Because I used to have a loop, right? I got rid of it because I would look at that thing and I would stare at it. So it'd be like it takes a minute to load, 5, 10 minutes to load in the morning. I used to lie in bed until that score came up. And when you do that, you are gaslighting yourself into performing worse if the score is low, right? You get a 60% score, you're like, oh, I feel worse now. I didn't get enough sleep. Or you see you got 6 hours, 30 minutes rather than the golden 7 hours. And you're like, no, I feel worse. I feel tired. My testosterone is going to be lower. And it's just such a wrong way to approach it. Realistically, the data or the feedback that you should actually be using to signal whether you've slept well enough should be how you feel. What's your energy like? What's your focus like? Can you think clearly? If so, golden. Keep doing what you're doing. If not, okay, something needs fixing. But don't let data guide your actions because ultimately it's just data. And these sleep trackers, they're not fully 100% accurate anyway. So use them with a pinch of salt.
Yeah,
Also, the only other thing with that is that if you put a lot of pressure on yourself to sleep well, you will sleep worse.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I just get into bed and drift. But I use this for steps. So
yeah.
to get in me 10, 15,000 steps, I won't even say how many steps I've done today. Oh my God, I've been sitting on my ass all day.
How many you got?
Under 2,000 today.
You got a lot of work, walking to do.
I have a lot of walking. Yesterday was 16,000 steps.
Nice. Oh, you sort of made up.
Well, yeah,
Evens out.
it evens out. Try and get them in. That's maybe I left this off sometime today.
Yeah, let's just say that. Let's just say that you
Say
left it
that
off
on it.
between 9 a.m. to midday.
9 a.m. Put it on the dog. Best advice you've ever received.
Act extremely quickly.
Explain that to me.
Whatever you want to do, you need to do it and you need to act quickly to get fast feedback and improve on that. If you don't take action, you'll never get the feedback required to improve. So thinking about the thing, talking about the thing is never going to benefit your situation. The only way you're ever going to get where you want to go in anything in life is by taking action. And the more action you take, the better, because the more quickly you will learn from your errors and your mistakes, and the more quickly you will find solutions and succeed in whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it reminds me of a good friend of mine, Jeff Smith. He's the KPI man in the world. He's the biggest thought leader on KPIs. He wrote a couple of books, and he has a thing which is KPI, but it's in a way it's slightly twisted. It's knowledge, so getting all that knowledge, and then you implement it. And then implementing it brings you closer to your potentiality. So if you get all the knowledge and you don't implement it, your potentiality is drifting away. And that's what he focuses on. And I think that's it. And I've always said it's make decisions. Even if they're the wrong decisions, they help you move forward. And if you don't make a decision, you're just stranded. You're stuck and you get nowhere on it. So I can agree with you on that. Best business book you could recommend?
Not so much a business book per se, but a book that I felt has been integral in my development in my own business, and that's Think and Grow Rich. And that's because of your mindset around everything. Without thoughts, we don't take actions, and your beliefs really do determine everything in your life, down to your body composition. So what you look like, down to how much money you make, down to the friends you have. Everything is determined by your thoughts and your beliefs. So I believe that if you have a unbreakable mindset And if you think about what you want, you will 100% achieve it as long as you take the actions to do that. But the actions will never come in place if you don't believe that thing is possible in the first place.
Have you ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
It's if you've liked the book, Think and Grow Rich, get that book. You'll thoroughly enjoy it. It's like
Thank you.
the next level of it. It's a great book.
Okay, I'll definitely get that.
Chester, if someone wants to reach out to you that needs help, getting energy, help with their sleep, they're wrestling, turning at night and feel there has come a point in their life that they actually need some help, how do they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm most commonly active on LinkedIn. And if anyone just pops me a message, then I will get back to them and I'll help talk through their sleep. And I do like to assess people's sleep and find out what the root core issue is so that I can actually understand, whether I can help or not. So if anyone wants to find me, then I'm on pretty much all social medias.
And what is your URL for those social medias? It's there.
Yeah, so it's Chester Maglo across all platforms. Trying.
And you're a regular posting and sharing information as well online.
Yeah, definitely. Mainly on LinkedIn. That's where I post most of my content. But again, yeah, I do post on Instagram and YouTube as well, just not so often.
Cool. Chester, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.